Hello everyone, I am MechaGodzilla and welcome back to the Cat production show. Now, today's going to be a very special video, and the reason why is because I am actually going back to basically how the channel really first started, and I'm going to be actually doing a tour review. Yeah, it's been actually been a rather long time since I've done one of those. So today, for kicking off this new trend I'm going to be doing now, we are going to review this big guy. This is the third version of MechaGodzilla from the Godzilla franchise, but for some reason the nickname that this character got was, I think it's pronounced Kiru. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And this guy is actually was released with this guy, the Final Wars Godzilla, who, if you remember from a very, very long time ago, was actually the first video I ever actually recorded for Cat Productions, but it wasn't the first video that I uploaded. It was supposed to be, but at that point we had a couple problems, so yeah. Now, for this guy, we will start off with the detail. Now, the detail on this guy is very, very good. It's very accurate to how he was in the movie, and since it is basically a robot version of Godzilla, there are a whole bunch of different robot-like points on it. Like all the wires, the black wires that are inside are, for the most part, colored in. But if you could see right here, these parts here, they're supposed to be black on the tail, but for some reason they didn't color a single piece of this, which isn't much of a too much of a problem, but it is very noticeable when comparing it to the parts on his legs that are completely colored in, the back parts on his arms that are completely colored in, the neck parts here which are colored in. But like I said, it's not that big of a huge issue. On the legs here, you can see all the different screw pieces, all the different the metallic sort of parts are each individually separated from each other. There's just a whole bunch of detail on this guy. The feet right here, I guess these are the rockets on his feet here. I wish that these were sort of a bit more detailed, because it doesn't really stand out as much compared to all the other robotic pieces on here. The face is very detailed, all the different textures on it, the three spikes here, the yellow eyes, the red lines here near his eyes, his mouth when you open it, there's individual teeth, his robotic tongue here, and you can't really, I don't know if you could really see it, but if you open it up really widely, you can see the little pieces right here. Each of the spines are very detailed, very nicely. The different small spikes on top of the larger ones. It's very, very detailed. So, in terms of detail, it's very good. The color scheme, and since it is basically a robot, there is a whole bunch of silver basically all over the main shell of the design. As you can, of course, like I said, the black wires are all here. The face with the eyes and the parts around his eyes, those are colored in. This red downward arrow piece, which I never actually noticed in the movie itself. If you could see that. Now, of course, it's not completely colored in. Like I said, the only part that isn't really colored in at all is the tail here. And as you can see, if you look closely, there are a couple parts that are, I'm guessing, I've had this figure for a very long time, so I'm assuming that there was a point where all that stuff there, for some reason, got colored in. I guess I didn't really take much care of it, but if you do, then Good job. Now, the main thing that sort of disappoints me of this figure is the articulation. It's hard, the articulation isn't bad for a figure of this type of size, but like the arms move full 360. The waist barely moves at all, which I was sort of disappointed by. The head, it does want to move, but the head and the body are both separate pieces. So if you mess around with it too much, there comes a point where the head will just fall off. And like there was also a problem with the figure that was also released with it. The tail had a tendency of popping off, but that was like very easy to like get on, so that wasn't much of a problem. The head, however, once it gets removed, it takes like a very long time for it to actually to put it back onto the body. So that's more or less a flaw, but the legs don't move at all. It's just stuck on in this one like pose where one leg is like in front of the other. That I don't really like, because if you compare it to this figure, these move completely fine. Other than that though, the articulation, it overall gets the job done, but there could have been so much more in terms of how it can move. So you can't really get into a bunch of like dramatic poses and stuff like that. Now, in terms of measuring him, from his feet to the very tip right here, it goes about, it's right about 12 inches. So, yeah, it is slightly taller than the Final Wars Godzilla. I'm not quite sure if that's really accurate, but they still look very nice together. So, all in all, this figure is pretty good, but it's not perfect. The detail is very nice. It does look very much like MechaGodzilla. All like the little details, since it's all the robotic pieces, all that, it's all there. But in terms of actually putting him in like a bunch of poses to fit with some other Godzilla figures, this isn't exactly the type of figure for you if you're that kind of person. I would definitely recommend the more like the figures that are way more posable, where they move in almost every direction. But those are like very, very expensive. But those figures are still awesome. I really wish I had one of those. But in terms of a 5-star rating, I'm gonna give this guy a 3 out of 5. The main thing really saving it is, of course, the detail. But if I'm going through like setting the detail aside and as like an actual like action figure, I would most likely put it down to a 2.5 out of 5. But all in all, would I recommend this figure? If you're a fan of the character of MechaGodzilla 3 basically, I would recommend you get this figure. If you had this guy and you want the other figure to pose with him, then I would recommend you get him, because these are basically, these two, because of their gargantuan size, they don't really fit well with any of the other Godzilla figures. I know there are probably I think there's a Final Wars Gigan that's also about this size. So yeah, maybe eventually I'll get to look at that, but only time will tell. So I hope you really enjoyed my review of this guy. If you did, comment on the video what you thought of him, and follow me on Facebook, all that good stuff. And yeah, until then, I'm Benjamin Contreras, and bye.